Let's finish this thing up right now talking about Utah going to Utes Stadium to play the Oregon Ducks. If you haven't yet, get your questions into Nick Brake and I. We're going to try to answer all those as much as possible. Get those in now so we can keep on rolling, all right? Take a quick sip of this rat poison here for a second, Nick, before we keep going. Oh, yeah. That's the good stuff. All right. Utah going to Oregon. In Eugene, Utes Stadium, a little 10:30 Eastern kick. So a little late night for you. Oregon's favored by 3 points. Pac-12 title implications are on the line. Oregon getting that bad taste out of their mouth. Took a tough loss last week against Washington. Ran for over 300 yards. Still lost the game. So they're ready to hit that reset button. They're ready to start, moving forward to, the next thing for them. They're tired of feeling that losing feeling. They want to recapture that winning feeling. And doing it against Utah would obviously be a nice feather in their cap going forward as they charge towards a Pac-12 title berth. Now, Utah, they're looking to prove they're still the top dog in this conference. Because if you remember correctly, we saw this same game actually happen in the Pac-12 title a year ago. Utah did what they wanted. They're looking to make sure that it's everybody in the country knowing, hey, this is our conference. Are we a little bit, down this year, quote unquote? Sure. We need some help to get the Pac-12 title, maybe. We're still the top dog. They want to prove it this week against Oregon. My question for this game, can Oregon capture the edge of that Utah defense? Because I have seen Utah on 2 separate occasions, once against USC and once against UCLA, have trouble when they get out there in space. And Bo Nix, if he's able to go in this game, and Bucky Irving, they do really well when they get into space. Kenny Dillingham dials it up to getting their playmakers in space. And so the less that Oregon can play this game in the trenches, I think the more that will favor Oregon. Not to say that Oregon can't play in the trenches, but the strength of this Utah defense is in the interior. You make them get out and run around and have to run with your fast guys. I think that favors Oregon. Because if they can't, like I said, you play to Utah's strengths, and maybe the game slows down just a little bit, and you have to recalibrate as Oregon, spotting Utah the chance to then sort of push the tempo on you a little bit. Maybe they get up 7 points, and you have to change the way that you play. All that's to say, it's a very big deal. Oregon's a very good running football team, ran for 312 yards last week. Bucky Irving averaging 7 yards a carry. Still feed them, but feed them in the regard to where they're not running straight into that stone wall that is the Utah interior defensive line. My question for Utah offensively is, what kind of punches for them are landing? This is very crucial. Tavion Thomas, running back for Utah, is a stud. Averages 5 yards a carry. Oregon's given up right now 109 yards, so it's kind of a battle of the strengths, if you will. What's their success doing that? Is Tavion Thomas able to pick up 3 relatively consistently, or is it something where it's kind of a pushback? Other key player I'm looking at for Utah offensively, obviously Cam Rising. It's kind of the catalyst of the offense, but their leading receiver is not a receiver at all. It's a tight end. Many of you that watch Pac-12 football probably know him, Dalton Kincaid. Probably most notable for his career day he had against USC earlier this year. He's their leading receiver. And he's not so much a guy that's going to pop the top on the defense, but in the middle of the field, his matchup issue he gives you as a defense cannot be overstated. He's going to work the middle of the field. He's going to work that corner route, work the dig route. Like, he is very difficult to cover one-on-one with his mix of size and speed for what his size is. Like, they want to feed him the football. The reason why I ask what kind of punches are they connecting on, both Tavion Thomas and Dalton Kincaid, in my mind, would be the equivalent of jabs to this Oregon defense. I think this Oregon defense can eat jabs, if that makes sense. Like, yes, maybe they connect a few times, maybe they score some points, but as long as you're not allowing the haymakers to connect, I think you could be okay if you're Oregon. Now, the haymaker for Utah could be a guy named Devon Vallée. Devon Vallée. He's a dog for them, for Utah, that is, outside wide receiver. What hurt Oregon so much last week against Washington, that is, 408 yards passing from Michael Penix. Averaged right around 16 yards of completion. They just hit deep pass after deep pass after deep pass. It is very hard to stay in a fight when you are consistently getting hit with haymaker after haymaker after haymaker. You know, that weakens the jaw, that leads to a knockout. And Oregon played really well offensively, but their defense just ultimately got knocked out. So, is it Tavion Thomas for 4, 5, 6, long drive by Utah, Dalton Kincaid over the middle, you live with it, you bend but you don't break, you don't give up the huge explosive play? Or is it, like I just said, the explosive play to Valet, deep pass, haymaker, knockout punch, bad deal? Because the Oregon secondary is really struggling right now. Giving up, I believe they're somewhere in the neighborhood of 280-ish, maybe more, but they have to come to play in this game. You can't have the same performance you had last week against Washington and still expect to win this game. All right, senior day in Eugene, got to bring your best. If Bo Nix plays, I could see this game becoming a shootout. There isn't any update from Dan Lanning, which is uncommon on him, but Bo Nix came back into the game last week. I get the feel he's going to play. Whether he does or not, we'll see. But if he does play, I think it could be a shootout. Utah averaging 36 points a game. Oregon averaging 39 points a game. What it comes down to for me is I just don't think Oregon loses 2 shootouts in a row. I really don't. Maybe Utah imposes their will and shortens the game and says, Bo Nix, you got to watch this one. We're going to make it low scoring. We're going to make it ugly. Could see Utah winning that kind of game. When all the dust settles, I think Kenny Dillingham and company continue to play effective, flashy offensive football, run the football well yet again. I think Oregon ends up winning this game, and I think they end up covering the spread just a little bit. I think the final score is 44-39. Oregon wins in Autzen on Senior Day. Enormous. To this point, maybe even program defining for Dan Lanning and company, getting a big win on Senior Day. Ducks beat Utah. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.